Your hosts have earned a reputation as fierce and effective advocates inside and outside of the courtroom. Our partners are experienced trial attorneys who have been board certified in family law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning into the For Better or Worse or Divorce podcast, where we provide you tips and insight on how to navigate divorce and child custody situations. I'm Brian Walters, and today I'm joined by Bree Sullivan-Howell, founder of the Sullivan Firm, LLC in Georgia. Bree's been named one of the 10 best family law attorneys in Georgia and is also the author of 2 books, Crush Your Divorce and Keep Your Faith, as well as Crush Your Comeback. Today, Bree and I will be discussing how we empower our clients going through legal battles, which is an important topic. And we're excited to have Bree's expertise with us today. So, Bree, tell us a little bit about yourself and your books. I always encourage people to tell interesting things about themselves, not lawyer stuff like I graduated from and, was in this law journal or whatever that nobody cares about. But something interesting, like where were you born? Where'd you grow up? What part of Georgia do you live in? I love Georgia. We're actually probably going to be out there, my family and I, next month for a little trip. And especially tell me about your books. That's quite an achievement to have written one, much less 2.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's so good to be here. I grew up, born and raised in Southwest Georgia, in the Albany area on a farm. That's where I primarily spent my young years. Then I went off to college, did law school, and practiced law in Georgia since then. I came back to South Georgia after being in a larger city in Georgia for a little while after graduation. But I've settled down here and I've been doing family law probably, 20 years now, of my 23 almost total years in practice. And I just really love it. I've got 3 children. 2 are in college. 1 is in high school. I chase them around to soccer fields and, whatever they have going on a good bit. Less so now with the college ones, but the teenager is still keeping me busy. And love promoting my books and helping people and ministering to their needs. I mean, I think larger than the law practice, the books are designed to speak to someone's soul and to help them through the emotional part so that they can do the business part of a family law matter.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I've tried to start writing a book or 2 myself. I've not gotten past the second page, which is probably typical. So I really admire you actually doing it. Like I said, not once, but twice. But yeah, maybe tell us briefly about, one or both of the books. So we, if you got one to flash up to, that'd be great. Or just tell us what you know about them.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. So the first one is Crush Your Divorce and Keep Your Faith. And it was originally going to be one full book of both of them, but it was so much content by the time I finished that I had to break it into 2. So the second one is Crush Your Comeback. So the first book has 4 sections. The first part of the book is about preparing your mind, spirit, soul for what you're about to go through, getting your emotions settled and in check, and little tips for that, scripture references. It is a faith-based work. I find that comforts people. And then there's a section about abuse and how to identify it, what to do about it, how to manage it in your litigation, because being abused can be a part of what you discuss in a court case. It has a lot to do with some of the issues, especially in a divorce. And then the last part of the book is all about how to help your lawyer win your case, because no one knows how to do it. I mean, typically, you haven't been through a divorce if you're going through one, and you don't know how to help your lawyer unless it's told to you. So rather than have those conversations over and over and over, I can now tell people, get my book, read section 3. And it saves a lot of time. Crush Your Comeback is about the season after your divorce is finished. And it's all about the coming brighter days to encourage people that there is a new day coming and this is not the end of your life. So that's it in a nutshell.
Very, very true. Well, let's talk about how we can help our clients through that, whether, for me, it starts with the first meeting, which typically is an intake meeting or consultation, whatever you want to call it. And how about, I assume it's the same with you. And do you have a kind of a process or a way you typically handle those to start bonding with your clients and then moving them in the right direction that they want to go to.
Yeah, and I think the bonding comes naturally as you're asking these very personal questions of
Right.
someone.
It is.
And it's amazing, isn't it? Like the first meeting with somebody, you get to know all about their sex life and
Yeah,
their children and their home and their finances, things people normally keep very private. And
exactly.
you learn it all in the first hour. And it's a real moment of, you know, getting down to somebody's foundational beliefs and what their goals are, what keeps them up at night. Like those are things that go deep. And so I find in that first meeting, the questions have to be crafted properly to get all that information flowing. But once it does, I think you get a lot of common ground with somebody from the start. And then they trust you from the beginning to understand them, to hear what they're saying, and to try to effectuate their goals. Is that your experience too?
It is. You're right. I mean, if unless somebody has maybe a very close relationship with a religious figure, or maybe they're, or a very good friend, they probably have never spoken about those things the way they have with us, or maybe only one thing. Maybe they've only spoken about money with their financial advisor, or their private life with with their best friend or something like that. But yeah, suddenly they're on the phone or on Zoom or in your office, and out it all comes. And it's quite the thing. And I mean, we're given enormous amount of trust as lawyers. I mean, not only to handle somebody's case like legally and all of the responsibilities we have as far as money and children, all those kind of things, but you're exactly right. Also, just emotionally, we're handed that kind of trust. And I think, of course, some of our clients are more open than others about it. And some just kind of want to get through it, don't really maybe want to talk about it. But most of them, I think it's probably the most talking about those kind of things they've probably ever done, or at least recently. For me, early on, whether it's that initial consultation or the first part of the case, there are always kind of two categories of discussions I like to have, which are and they want to hear about, which is kind of the process. How do we get from where I am to the end of this process? Whether that means filing for divorce or if it's a custody case, dealing with that. And then the other part that kind of goes hand in hand with that is, at least from what I've learned, is what's going to happen to me, to my finances, to my children, to my life. Um, those are the two kind of things that I typically cover with people I think about 100% of the time. Those tend to be important. Is that the same for you, or are there other things that come out that they want to talk about?
Well, I think people are generally fearful of the unknown. And that is what they come to us for more than anything. It's just comfort that you have a plan and that it's not unknown to you. I mean, we can't make guarantees of a certain result, obviously, but we can tell them what we've seen before and how things typically go generally and how we're going to present it for optimal results and what we need from them. And I'll tell you too, I think giving people action items empowers them to have ownership in their cases. And then the case is stronger because they feel like it feels like they are part of that conversation rather than just handing it over to the lawyer to figure out, and that's what I think. Well, that's what section 3 of my book is all about. Like, your lawyer is not out there in the wilderness doing this without you. This is your life, and you've got to give them the bullets for the gun. They're not just going to go in there and shoot off things. You got to have evidence. You got to have facts. You got to know the background, and it takes time to do that. And over that time, you build more and more trust as these conversations happen. But that's what I think the main thing is. To answer your question, people just want to know there is a plan, and they want to know your procedure and your methodology for implementing the plan.
Are there kind of tools or things that you like in particular to get from people? Let's take an example of a divorce with children under the age of 18, where there's some assets, decent amount of assets, not one extreme or the other. What are the kind of things you like to? You said giving them tasks and things to do and to help you. What do those things look like in your practice, at least?
Well, there's always a financial disclosure. I think in every state there's some form of that, so you got to start with that. And, the financial things are easier for judges to latch onto than the emotional things like that feel good, So you got to get down to the things the judge is going to want to hear about in the hearing. They want you to tell about those things in the hearing. So I get tax returns from the start. I get pay stubs. If I can get all the financial statements, bank statements, retirement account statements, that kind of thing. If it's a custody case or involving custody, I want photos of my client with the children showing how bonded and close they are. Photos of the home showing it's a clean, safe place in case it's ever accused of not being that. That kind of common sense stuff. If there's a story that something painful happened or something harmful happened, I want the narrative written down in one place so that I can put it in my binder and just ask questions from that narrative rather than having to write it all out myself. It just saves time. There are a number of things, and it's case by case, of course. I mean, sometimes you have to get something specific for that particular story. But when you give those action items, and people rise to the challenge. A lot of times they feel like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let me give you, I've got this other thing. Ooh, and I've got a recording. And they get almost energized.
Yeah, I mean, for example, a divorcing couple, let's say been a stay-at-home mom or a very active mom, and now they're sharing the kids, sometime with dad, sometimes with mom, and now she's home all alone for a long weekend, and that's got to be tough emotionally, and that not only gives her something to do, but also helps us as lawyers. So, is Georgia a very litigation, like courtroom driven system, or is it more the kind of California way of let's put some numbers into a formula and outcomes, and fill out a form, and out comes an outcome in most cases? Just curious where you guys take. Texas is, I think, very far on the litigation world. We're in the court all the time, and I think, in my opinion, California is the other extreme of the least such thing. Where do you guys fall, do you think?
I think we fall on the litigation end of that spectrum. We don't have an alimony formula. We do have a calculator for child support, but it's nuanced, and you've got to prove your facts that go into the calculation for the form. So it requires a judge if you disagree about incomes or daycare costs or health insurance premiums and whether we should be at, this daycare or that one, or this health insurance or this one, and who has the cheaper option. And it turns into an argument almost every time. So, here we end up in court a lot.
Same with us. We've got our child support is very straightforward, but not much else is. And we actually pretty much don't have alimony, but everything else is pretty loosey goosey. So it ends up in court a lot, and and that's terrifying for clients, I think. As it kind of should be. It's generally not the best way to resolve things, but sometimes it's the only way, right? And so we spend a lot of time on that, preparing them for court, trying to make them better witnesses, not doing anything that seems obvious to them that's going to be annoying to a judge in a courtroom. So do you have those kind of things too, where you do preparation for court and that type of thing?
We have those conversations, and some clients need that more than others. I think you know what I'm talking about. I make sure I have those conversations with people I think may not perform well unless they're prepped.
I think so too, and sometimes it's surprising. Sometimes you think they're going to do well and they don't, but or they're just unprepared. Of like what I've learned some very specific questions to learn. Not what are your weaknesses as a parent, or what do you think what should I be worried about in court that are going to come as attacks for you? I have to, like, that very specific question is, when you're sitting on the stand, what's the main source of attack the other lawyer's going to make on you? Whether it's true or not, what is he going to come after, or is she going to come after you for? And that makes them kind of not be this defensive, like, I am a good parent, or, I haven't really done anything wrong. She drinks too much, or whatever. And I think makes them put themselves in the other person's shoes and think, okay, well, actually, my wife's been complaining for years that I am not home enough. I work too much and I don't spend enough time with the kids. I don't think that's true, but that's what she's going to say. And that way I can know, okay, well, now that's where things are going to come from. So let's look, in that case, I'd say, well, let's look at a calendar. Let's look at a daily schedule that you do and what you've done the past few months with the kids or with work, and see where we stand. And that way I can prepare them for, well, you do travel half the time. And so that's an issue, right? It doesn't make you a bad parent. Doesn't mean you don't love your kid. It's going to be an issue, right? And that way I can be prepared for it rather than a client telling me I'm fine, she's a drunk, right? Which isn't, it's sort of like what you said. It doesn't, and then I get into court and I'm like, wait, you're gone half the time and you want custody. Wait a second, that's going to be tricky. At least that works for me. I don't know what your observations are.
I've done that before too. I've asked that question. Like, you've said a lot about your ex to me. What are they going to say about you? That's a great question. And I go one step further. I've got a page in my questionnaire that deals with conduct things. And I go through, okay, any adultery? And just asking those two words, any adultery or any drug use, any criminal history, any mental health treatment, inpatient or outpatient, like, I need to know these things now. And you do too. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to get caught flat-footed in court. Like, what in the world? You didn't tell me this. What about that meth addiction you had 2 years ago? Like, nobody mentioned this. So you've got to make sure you ask those questions up front. I mean, I want to know what I'm dealing with from the very beginning.
Yeah, I was an hour and 15 minutes into a consultation Sunday night, and then the guy let me know that he had an intravenous drug addiction in the past, which I didn't ask which one, but I can guess. And yeah, that's important to know, I would think. But I didn't get told that till the very end, which would have been nice to know in a custody battle. And anyway. So, well, let's talk. I mean, the easy cases are the ones where we have the clients come in, they're prepared, they're ready to get through this. The case isn't that hard. Those are the relatively straightforward ones. But what are the hard ones? I think are the ones where we can really make a difference as lawyers. Those are the challenges, right? I mean, it's sort of like anything. Anybody can do a simple thing. But it's tricky with the hard ones. So, what are the most common issues that you see when clients feel either overwhelmed or discouraged? What drives them, and what do you do to address those kind of client issues or clients who have those issues?
You mean just being anxious in general, or?
Yeah, I mean, or just whatever it is. I mean, I see depression is a big deal to me. It seems like I'm just discouraged. I'm not gonna, when is this gonna end? Or I don't want to be divorced and there's no way to stop it. Or those, that's a common one to me at least. And I don't really have a great answer for it other than, just explaining that, hey, in fact, it will be over at some point, or it's true you can't stop someone from divorcing you who wants to, but sort of like the title of your second book, there's going to be brighter days ahead, and you'll be able to make a comeback, and life will be different. I keep quoting to my clients that 80%, I think that's the number, something like 80% of people remarry who get divorced, especially if you divorce like in your 20s to 40s. I think that's the correct numbers. And but that actually doesn't always cheer them up.
Well, they don't always want to remarry in the middle of a divorce. They're thinking, never again will I ever do this.
You got those folks who what was I thinking, getting married, and then you've got the other ones, you're right, who don't want to be divorced, and therefore the concept of finding somebody else is really, really difficult. So I've said that a lot of times. I don't think that's maybe the best way to approach that.
I think it's a good stat to quote, though. I think it's a good stat. When I went through my divorce, the mediator, who's actually a friend of mine too, that I hang out with a lot, said to me that stat about people getting remarried. I was like, never will I ever do this again. And do you know, they don't let me live it down, because I got married 7 months after my divorce was final to the man I met on my first date post-divorce. And I didn't anticipate any of that happening. So I tell my own story to my clients. Like, it can hit you when you least expect it. A day in your life can be so different from the day before. What a difference a day makes. That's a cliche, but it's actually true. I mean, it can really, your life can change on a dime. And there is a whole future nobody even can see yet. And when you're mired down in the pain and the agony of a divorce that you don't want or didn't expect, or you're feeling unloved or rejected or whatever the case may be, it's hard to see that there's any hope. But then, another thing I do is I tell my clients, like, I know a lot of people who are single that you would really like. Like, is a group of you. You're not the only one going through this. People just don't talk about it.
My wife has joked with me that I should start a side business as a dating service.
I've made some matches in my office. I got my license to do weddings, like to officiate weddings. I've started doing that with my divorce clients who find love again. It is so fun. It's great.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Get them divorced, get them remarried. It's like full service.
I guess we'll cover one more kind of high difficulty. Just when there's a high difficulty spouse or opposing side, if it's a custody battle, whatever it is, when the other person is just not interested in anything other that can be resolved. I mean, I tell my clients, like, we have to resolve our problems in our court system, because if we were in a country without a functioning legal system, we'd be solving every problem with guns, which is probably not good. And but there are people who make it not much different than a gunfight when it's these cases. So any particular thoughts about how to manage clients who are really suffering from dealing with the high conflict opposing side? I mean, because on one hand, you don't want them to just roll over and give the other side whatever they want, because it's not going to be good for the kids or for them, or they'll regret it. But it's also a nightmare going through this. So how do you handle those kind of situations?
Well, I've got a whole section in my book about dealing with high conflict exes. And there is a whole science to that I've not entirely figured out. I tell them to consult counselors for tips on interpersonal relations. But when it comes to the litigation part of it, being high conflict, I tell my clients a few things. One of them is choose your battles, because they want you to jump in the mud and wrestle with them about every little thing. And you're just playing into their whole strategy when you engage. So it's better just not to engage unless you just have to. If it's something that's like a deal breaker issue or life and death for your kids or something you have to address, you do it. But otherwise, I think you just don't let it bother you. You got to just, and if it does bother you, don't show them that it does. And let your lawyer deal with all those kinds of things in a way that's unemotional. I think you get to the finish line a little faster if a high conflict person doesn't think you're being fazed by their behavior. And you almost have to fake it till you make it. Like, you almost have to act like this is ridiculous, even when it's bothering you so much, just to get past that. Because they will eventually stop, I think, or curb it if they don't think they're getting the result they want.
That's very true. Okay. Well, I think that's all we have for today. I really appreciate the podcast. We're going to make sure we put the links to your books or to speak with you directly in the notes for the show. I appreciate you joining us today. We'll make sure we put all that contact info in there. And you have a good rest of the day. I'll listen a little bit further along in the day where you are than where I am. And I appreciate it. I'm Brian Walters, and I want to thank everybody for listening.
For information about the topics covered in today's episode and more, you can visit our website at waltersgilbreth.com. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of For Better, Worse, or Divorce, where we post new episodes every first and third Wednesday. Do you have a topic you want discussed or a question for our hosts? Email us at podcast@waltersgilbreth.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time.